Hello, Libra. Thanks so much for joining me today. This is JJ from JDevianceJ, bringing you a July 2020 brief forecast. Although, you know what I've come to realize? I don't like the term forecast because I don't even think that that's accurate. This is more like a reading of the energies which surround my Libra sun, moon, and rising beauties of this world. And so it is my intent and my will to read the tarot for you today, if you shall allow me and if you shall indulge. Thank you for being here and for your continued support. The other day I uploaded a general reading for July 2020 where I read for the collective. As some of you may or may not have learned about me as of late, I have found it quite difficult to separate all the signs, and I think the reason for this is partially to do with my own spiritual evolution and how comfortable I feel, as well as this shift in group dynamics as well. So, Libra, with this deck that I'm using, the Alchemy England Tarot deck, I don't wait for cards to fall out. I don't wait for myself to be done shuffling. The cards reveal themselves by edging out. Oh, we're not going to look at that because it fell face down, but we will look at this. Seven of Swords, upright. Okay, what's that about? Last sign that got this card reversed was Leo, I think. And in this deck, swords are shown as roses, which I think is quite nice. It's quite refreshing. I like the illustration in this deck. Though it does rely a lot on your own knowledge of the tarot, so it's not a beginner's deck at all. But I have very much enjoyed exploring this deck by bringing you these readings. I would say this month was definitely the first time that I'd ever used this deck, even though it's been in my possession for quite a while now. So a little bit about the general reading that I gave the other day for all signs, which I encourage you to check out. I will place the link in the description beneath. We were talking about, well, I'm speaking with all of you beautiful people about Venus retrograde, Mercury retrograde, lack of power in decision making, who deserves to have that decision making authority, who is the authority in your life in terms of what you make of your life, the path that you choose to be on. And how does one handle criticism from others? How do we avoid falling into traps and creating our own blocks moving forward? Especially when we may be receiving so much resistance, because I don't want to I do not want to assume that anything is fact, but merely my intuition. So how do we handle types of resistance that may come our way, especially from authority heads? And authority heads are different for all people, from our parents to our professors, if you're still studying, to our bosses, and even to some degree, the law, right? So we look at the government and we want to trust our governments. Not to say that we do trust our governments, but we trust them or want to trust them to do the right thing by us, basically. We trust them with our taxes, hell. We trust them with our healthcare. If you're so lucky to be in a country like I am, where healthcare is free. Let's not go into that, but yeah. Seven of Swords, Libra, talks about, the first word that came to my mind just now was daggers. I was going to say, talks about juggling daggers. Well, true. If you look at the Rider-Waite and you look at the original illustration for this card, you'll see someone who may in olden times have been considered to be part of a circus. In some decks portrayed that way. The Deviant Moon deck portrays it like that. But in the original Rider-Waite, I don't mean to kid, I'm joking a lot these days. In the original Rider-Waite, really we're talking about someone that is trying to move or take with them 7 swords all by themselves. So they're not even splitting up the effort between 2 individual trips. They're not saying, okay, I'll take 3 now and 4 later. They're basically saying, I can handle this all by myself, and I'm not even going to ask for anyone to help me. I'm going to prove to those around me that I can do this, and I can do this single-handedly. And I find that an interesting topic to broach, this topic of individuation that I have been talking about a lot recently, in the sense that many of us feel the need to assert ourselves now so much more than what we're used to before. And this I find really funny, because while a lot of us are free spirits and we've never had issues, expressing ourselves and being assertive, now we might be encountering the kind of resistance from people around us, where people are challenging what our motives may be. People are questioning whether or not we're mature enough to make our own decisions and take control of our own lives. Right. And this can be a little bit hurtful, especially if you've well been living your own life, managing your own situation very well. Who's to come and tell you now that you haven't been doing a good job? The only person, I believe, that has the right to do that is really yourself. If you have done wrong by someone, and you know that you have, but there is an exception where someone can honestly come and tell you, hey, listen, I don't think you spoke to me in a way that I appreciated, for example, and may decide to have a mature conversation, and we would hope that it remain mature conversation with you about how you could have handled the situation differently. And if you respect this person, and if you value this person, and if they had enough respect to actually speak to you about it, right, well then engage in open conversation about how the both of you can come to this relationship with more maturity. Drawing from the tiny universal weight deck for you, Libra, I've drawn the 8 of Swords, which talks about mental blocks and actually talks about standing in your own way. We can stand in our own way, actually, when we think we're incapable of making a decision ourselves. God, I'm so getting bored of kind of repeating myself. And that's because a lot of the readings for all the signs has pretty much centered around the same topic, with slight variations here and there, some being a bit more elaborate, others being very clear, some being the complete opposite, and it just really mixed up and jumbled in my own head and quite complicated to get through as well. For some, we were talking about relationship. For others, we were talking about career. And for others, we were talking about pretty much all of the above and massive major shifts in life, where one change becomes a catalyst for more change to come. So Libra, you're not alone if you have been asking yourself the questions whether or not you've made the right move recently. My answer isn't really going to be a clear-cut, here's the solution, and I'm able to solve all your problems. No. But my answer will be that time will reveal whether or not you've made the right decision. And know this, that there is nothing that you can't reverse except for death. But even death is a rebirth in its own way. So although we sometimes feel like, you know, we're approaching the end of the world in our own personal lives, and how can we come back from whatever heartache we've had to endure, although I'm not seeing any heartache here at all. I'm seeing more, dealing with our own critical thought and dealing with how we approach our own criticism as well. So a lot of Libras may be feeling critical of themselves recently, which is also interesting, because I feel also the need to say that Leo, when Leo got the Seven of Swords reversed, and it was accompanied by another card at the time as well, there was this idea that rather, you know, not that Leo would be criticizing themselves, but that they were facing certain unwelcomed criticisms. Sometimes they wouldn't even have asked for another person's opinion, right? But people were just like liberally just telling Leo what they thought about things that they may have like produced or launched or shared with them, basically. And Leo may be used to like receiving compliments, and this time around might be receiving harsh critique and not necessarily taking it very well, and turning that inwards and somehow trying to justify it, and basically, you know, trying to nitpick and find their own faults. And I think that all of that, while helpful to some degree, and criticism is always welcomed if it is tactfully packaged for us to take back and put to good use, so that we can help ourselves learn from where we've gone wrong. You know, myself included. No one is perfect. We all have our faults. We count on others to sometimes point out mistakes in our reasoning, our logic, and to even point out to us when we're being overly negative and overly critical of ourselves. So Libra, in this case, because of this Eight of Swords that's come out, I have a tendency to think that you are being overly critical for certain things happening right now in your life. Potentially questioning why you thought it was a good idea to do what you've done, potentially. But what you've done, I don't know. Only you know. And I invite you to share your thoughts with me, if you're so inclined, of course, to let me know if this resonated with you in any way. And if it didn't resonate with you, that's okay. You don't have, this is for entertainment purposes at the end of the day, you guys. And I enjoy bringing these readings as long as you enjoy receiving these readings. So yeah, give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you for supporting the channel in any capacity. If you want to contact me more privately, I'll leave a link beneath in the description box so that you can do so in your own time, and I will respond as soon as I can. For now, I want to wish you a happy month ahead, many more months after that to come, and we will talk soon, hopefully. Lots of love to all of you. Goodbye for now.